All right, good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank everybody for staying, and I'd also like to thank the Society for giving me the opportunity to present some of the exciting work we've been doing with our woven tissue engineering test systems and the development of our automated loom. I think a lot of us are aware of the work that's been going on with non-woven meshes and particularly with the electrospinning processing methods that are associated with those, and also with the knitted meshes such as the polypropylene Marlex mesh that you see there on the right. But we really wanted to focus on woven meshes for our application due to our ability to manipulate some of those parameters that you see on the bottom, such as porosity, pore size, pore interconnectivity, material composition, mesh configuration, and geometry. But for the purposes of this study, we really wanted to focus on mesh configuration and geometry. And when I say mesh configuration, I mean the actual weaving pattern, the way that the fibers are arranged within the mesh construct. So the goal for this work was to prove that the loom that we developed was capable of creating these woven polymeric scaffolds, and that those scaffolds were able to have variable weaving configurations. And so we looked at two things to determine loom functionality. The first was, is the loom capable of weaving meshes with specific configuration and defined structure? And then the second thing was, are the meshes that are created by the loom able to support cell attachment and proliferation during in vitro testing? So before I jump into the experimental design, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the development of the loom itself. And so the loom is actually controlled through a National Instruments LabVIEW control system. And all of the moving components on the loom itself are pneumatically controlled through the house air system in our laboratory. And I won't go through the loom components here, but I do have a short video to show you all. So basically what you're seeing here is the control screen, and if you can notice the LED array here, which will allow the user to enter whatever weave configuration that they would like. Here you see the weft fiber being shot across the warp shed, the weft fiber being the fiber going from left to right, the warp fiber being the fiber that's going into the screen. And the object that you see moving backward and forward is the reed, which is compressing that weft fiber with each pass of the loom. As we come to the back here, we have our array of 12 torque-controlled DC motors, which basically gives us a constant tension for each one of our warp fibers. And then here's the part that really affects the weave configuration, is our warp harnesses basically going up and down right now that basically allow us to do the over and under weaving patterns. And so for the purposes of this experiment, I just wanted to highlight again the LED array here on the actual control screen that will allow the user to enter any mesh configuration or weave configuration that they want to do. And for the purposes of this study, we just wanted to do a proof of concept with the 50-50 mesh configuration, so a simple over and under pattern, and then the 75-25 mesh configuration, which would be 3 passes over and 1 pass under. And the materials that we used for this study were poly-L-lactide and poly-L-lactide coepsilon caprolactone. The poly-L-lactide being used because it was relatively cheap and available in the lab, and the poly-L-lactide coepsilon caprolactone due to the fact that we're trying to use that for some future studies in our lab. And so the material combinations that we looked at are listed there below. So for the cell portion of the study, after the meshes were created here, they were seated into a 12-well plate, non-treated polystyrene plate. And I'd like to draw your attention to these two control wells here. These were actually just wells to check the cell viability So they weren't included in the analysis of the qualitative data that I'll talk about a little bit later. But essentially, the meshes were placed into these wells and then covered with a Teflon ring. And the Teflon ring was used to make sure the mesh didn't float while it was in culture. And then we seeded murine bone marrow stromal cells onto each mesh, and we cultured them on an orbital shaker for 24 hours just to make sure that there was even dispersion of the cells and they weren't just concentrated in the area that they were pipetted onto the mesh. And then after that, they were held in static culture for 5 to 7 days with the culture medium being changed every 2 days. And to analyze this data, we looked at live dead assay to check cell viability, and also Alamar Blue assay to look at cell metabolic activity and also cell viability. So for some of the results that we have, it's a little difficult to see here, but if you can see the fiber structure that you have here, you can see the nice weaving structure, the over and under pattern. This is a 50-50 mesh, and what I really want to draw your attention to here is the distance that you see between the web fibers that are here. And if you actually notice, you see that there are 2 fibers here that are going underneath, so that would be the 75-25 configuration that I mentioned earlier. But you notice that there seems to be qualitatively more cells on the 50-50 mesh than on the 75-25 mesh. And these results were also confirmed when we looked at the other material combinations. I'll just highlight the PLCL meshes here shortly. And again, you can see a lot more cells on the 50-50 mesh than are on the 75-25 mesh, and we believe that that's due to the weave configuration. But to look quantitatively, we use Alamar Blue to measure cell metabolic activity, and we actually have tried to normalize this data by culturing the murine bone marrow stromal cells with the Alamar Blue assay to try to get a number that corresponds to the fluorescence reading. But here again, we see results that correspond with what we saw qualitatively. The 50-50 meshes are showing a fluorescence reading that's significantly higher than the 75-25 meshes. And we also tried to control for material combination. And while we did see the same result as far as comparing each colored column to the other colored column, so blue to blue and red to red, green to green, we did see that there was a higher fluorescence reading for the 50-50 versus the 75-25, but the only significant difference was between the polylactide meshes. And I think that's due to our ability to better extrude the polylactide fibers, and therefore giving us a tighter weave. But we believe that the combination of these quantitative results as well as the live dead results lead us to believe that the loom is indeed capable of producing these meshes with variable weave configuration. And we see that the meshes are able to support cell attachment and proliferation in vitro culture. But we do realize that there are some limitations to our study, and one of the main issues we had trouble with was imaging the meshes, being that we're imaging just using light microscopy. It's hard to focus on the multiple planes that we need to look at where the cells are. So that's one issue that we're looking to solve. And then the next would be, like I mentioned earlier, the control wells weren't included in the cell viability or the Alamar Blue data. And then in the future, we're looking to add more warp harnesses so that we can increase the level of complexity for our weave configurations. And lastly, we're also looking to develop experiments that are going to measure differences based on not just weave configuration, but also on material type and fiber cross-section. And so to close, I'll just close with a few acknowledgments. First, I really like to thank God, and I'd like to thank my iBio lab members. And you see the funding sources there, as well as the Call Me Doctor Fellows program. And I'll take any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I imagine you have probably mentioned it, but I didn't get it. What was the size of the yarns you were using?
Well, excuse me?
The yarns you were weaving, what was the size?
The actual fibers, they were around, I think, 1 micron. Generally, I think around...
Around 1 micron. And then the question is, was it multifilament or something looking more like monofilament? Was it a monofiber?
A monofilament. These were...
monofilament, sorry. Yes.
Yes.
Monofilament. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question. What's the absorption time for those materials?
The resorption time?
Yeah.
I'm actually not looking at the resorption characteristics as a part of my study, but I do believe that just generally speaking, that the polylactide is a lot faster degrading material than the polylactide cocaprolactone. I'm not sure on the actual time frames.
Could I just follow up on the question about the size of the yarns?
Absolutely.
So what was the distance between the yarns? Or can you give us some idea? Because you didn't give us any images of the fabrics.
Right. And another study, we're looking at the pore size and the porosity, and where the pore sizes are around the 100 to 150 micron range between the fibers for the 50-50 mesh configuration. We haven't actually measured the 75-25 weave configurations yet.
So you're not expecting cellular migration across these pores, is that right?
No, not right now. We're actually looking to try to implement some of the fiber cross sections to help with that as well.
Okay. Thank you. And I just have a comment. You were using PLA, obviously quite successfully getting cells to grow on it, but our experience is that it's a very hydrophobic material. So how do you get it to wet out when you do your cell culture?
I think that the cell attachment is really a result of our fiber cross section, and also just the capillary action that we're seeing from our the weaving configuration. I don't think that it's a result of the material per se. I mean, we're saying if the 50-50, as you saw on the slide, the 50-50 copolymer meshes, they also showed similar amounts of cell growth on the mesh. So I don't think it was really a significant difference between the material types. I think it's more a result of the weave configuration. Good.
Thank you.